Hello, and welcome to my next Kings of War battle report. This is taken from a short 3-game local tournament at one of our local shops, Tabletop. It's a great shop here in San Antonio, Texas. This is our first real major Kings of War tournament since the second edition has come out. I showed up with my dwarves. Again, you will sadly notice some unpainted models. My life is very busy right now, so I don't have as much time to paint as I used to. But this is the deployment of my first game. Hilariously, my opponent is the same guy I played in my previous battle report with pretty much exactly the same list. My list changed a little bit from there to there, but it's pretty similar in concept, not much different at all. I'll just start from my deployment from left to right. On the left-hand side, that primed model is my new Berserker Brock Lord I picked up from Reaper. Kind of a neat-looking model, crazy dude with an axe on a wild boar or something. Then I got a unit of 10 Rangers, a troop of 10 Rangers rather. I've got a regiment of Berserker Brock Riders. I've got an Organ Cannon. I've got an unit of Iron Guard. And I'm pretty sure I gave that unit the Bravery Potion, so they have +1 nerve. Then I got another Organ Cannon there, and you'll see the Warsmith that will split 6 inches between those two cannons. He's actually got a pretty good solid range, by the way. You can spread your cannons out pretty good and still use his ability. Then I've got the Gyrocopter there from Warhammer is actually representing my king. He's got the wings of Honey Maze, so he just flies around in his gyro. I've got next to him a unit of Shield Breakers up on the hill. And then I've got beneath them another 10-man unit of Rangers. What you can't see off the upper right-hand corner of the Shield Breakers is the other unit of Iron Guard. And they have the +1 speed item. And then I got a unit of Ironclad out on the right, a horde of Ironclad out on the right. My opponent, up on the hill on the far right, you'll see he's got a unit of 6 shooters. They've got they look like lead belchers, but he's using them as accounts as for the crossbows. And they've got the Jar of the Four Winds. So that's a really nasty, long-range, high-piercing threat from that hill that I'm going to really struggle to get to. He's got a unit of chariots out in front there with the hero kind of stuck behind him. And then he's got a unit of warriors, a horde of warriors rather. He's got another horde of warriors with another hero behind them. And he's got a horde of warriors that have been equipped with great weapons off to the right. Off to his right, rather. Then he's got a hero and a giant, and you'll see just barely the tusk of that mammoth over there on the left. So he's got a mammoth, a hero, and a giant on the left-hand side, which is why my Berserker Brock and my Brock Lord are over there. For items, my Brock Lord has the Beast Slayer sword. My Berserker Brocks have +1 strength. I already told you about the Iron Guard, and the Shield Breakers have the +1 to hit item. And I'm pretty sure that's all of my magical items. I don't remember what magical items he has. Oh, my BSB has the breath weapon, or my Army Standard Bearer has the breath weapon, and his does too. So, moving on. This is just another shot of his deployment. Those are his ogre positions there. Alright, so I get the first turn, and I go ahead and advance. Excuse me. The left flank, you can kind of see the Berserker Brock Riders advance. We're going to start playing footsie on the left with those giants. They got a 14-inch total charge, and I've got a 16-inch total charge, so I have a movement advantage on the left, but I'm going to continue pushing up, pulling back, and so is he over there. Anyway, but that threatens his giant and his lord. My center, I'm beginning to push my center forward. I need to get these objectives. The game is objective-based. You'll see the little gold coins on the board. My Warsmith can't hold that objective, but my Organ Gun Cannon can. So long as he doesn't get behind my lines, I should be fine. So my Organ Cannons are holding that objective. I got the the Ironclad over there on that objective. I got that unit of Rangers up on the hill. They're going to stay there the whole game, guarding that objectives. I want to get a hold of these two out in the center. He's got a couple out there, and I'm pretty sure over the course of the game I can march up with my Ironclad, take those two objectives out there in front, and win the game. And here's another shot. This is me setting up my kill pocket, so you'll see I'm sort of setting up a long line, not much layering in my deployment, trying to set up a nice long arc for him to either come into or for me to advance through. Shooting just put a couple of wounds on his chariots, and he did not break. I did not get rid of them. Not surprising. His shooting was better. He put about 4 wounds on this unit of Rangers, but they hold the ground too. I'm pretty sure I needed my reroll from my king, but they stood their ground. And then this is the setup for the next turn. Again, we're totally playing footsie. He's shifting back a little bit. I'm shifting up a little bit. We're playing a lot of little games on the left-hand side. You'll see my Berserker Brock Lord way up at the top is kind of hiding by some impassable terrain, so he can't get flank charge from the mammoth, and he's shifting back a little bit because he doesn't want to take that Brock Rider to the face of any of those monsters. He's just murder on those monsters. So yeah, no commitment, just again flirting and moving into the forest down there, kind of slowing down, and that's it. I put a lot more wounds on his chariots from shooting. I'm pretty sure I got an organ gun shot on them. That, or I just did really well with the 2 units of rangers. But I focused my fire on those things. I want to get rid of them. I want to get them out. They have high move and lots of attacks, and it'll hopefully open up this area for me to get a little bit closer. Force his units to come forward. He, however, murders my poor little rangers. Those guys, the big meanies, with their big nasty jar, huge long range, piercing 2. Gun down my boys. But the organ gun gets its revenge. He has clear line of sight, and he shoots the chariots, who go away. And here's the rangers up at the top. They put some. There's some group of ogre hunters. I think one of the warrior groups I said earlier is actually a group of hunters. And they put a couple wounds on those guys hanging out in the forest. And there they are. Yeah, those are the hunters. Those guys are great. They got Pathfinder, lots of attacks. They have kind of a low defense, but they're pretty nifty. Anyway, so he's hiding in the forest with those guys and has not a lot to fear there. But if I can continue pounding them little by little with shooting, they'll vanish. You'll have to commit them. Yep, they're hanging out by that objective, but they're going to relax by the trees. He does some shooting now on my king. He actually puts a couple wounds on him, but he's fine. He starts advancing his lines now. Now that the chariots are gone, he kind of has to push up a little bit to get in position to charge. Here's the mammoth. He starts to get sneaky with his mammoth, which is kind of funny if you think about it. And he shifts over to the right. His objective, I think, is going to just be come down that left-hand side from my perspective of the board and go after the objective that I have on the left with those 10 little rangers. He's also got a hero there. Both of those problems, both of those critters are a problem. So at this point, I know that I'm going to have to split my Brock Riders up from my Lord. I think my Lord can protect that flank pretty well, but my Brock Riders won't be able to go along for the ride because I need them to do what they're doing right now. Otherwise, he'll come up on my left flank and I'll be in big trouble. Here he's advancing. You'll see a couple more wounds on his hunters. This is starting to get a little bit dangerous for him. I'm starting to get in range where I might be able to actually rout them. He moves up. And that's him moving his, you'll see his great weapon guys coming up on that objective just in case those hunters go away. He's starting to trying to double up his protection on the objectives that he's holding. And finally, he just pulls the trigger, knowing that he just can't sit there and get shot. So he charges the Berserker Brock Riders in the front with his hunters. Does a ton of wounds. Does like 12 or 13 wounds or something ridiculous like that. Might even have been 14. But the Lord is there. They do not rout because, Berserker Brock Riders give no fucks, and blood makes the grass glow. Blood makes the grass grow, and they don't mind getting hurt. And on the backup, he opens. He doesn't have a choice but to back up an inch. He does so, and he exposes his flank to the Iron Guard. And that's the result of that. King comes up to support Iron Guard and the Berserker Brock Riders into the front. Yeah, 14 wounds. You'll see them down there below the Berserker Brock Riders. And my Berserker Brock Lord was like, nope, going over here. So while they charged the front of that unit, he actually had enough distance and he had line of sight on the Mammoth, so he charged into the back of the Mammoth. Now, the only reason I had line of sight to the Mammoth is because he's got such a huge base. He should be on a smaller base, and he's not, but, that's life. I'm sure that Tom will probably shift that and change that. If I had not done that, I would have gone into the hero, though, and I would have accomplished the same goal I wanted to accomplish. But he blows past the charge arc of the Giant right into the flank of the Mammoth. So there's the battlefield. I sort of align my units, my other 3 units there. I'm going to just advance and pick up those 2 objectives. That's my goal. I'm about to clear off the ogres on the left-hand side, or in the center, rather. And there's my rangers kind of watching that fight with the mammoth over there. I win that fight, which shouldn't come as any surprise to anybody. I go ahead and reform. My Berserker Brock Riders are about to take it in the face from a giant, and there's really nothing they can do about it. Overrun would not have brought me out of his charge arc, so I decided to just reform so that after he was done killing them, he would wind up being an organ cannon range, and I wanted to make sure that I had everybody else in my front with my Iron Guard. He does not have range to the Iron Guard's flank, which is good, because that would hurt. He goes in and he takes out the Berserker Brock Riders. His Mammoth countercharges and hits my Lord pretty hard. If you look up there in the upper left-hand corner, does about 6 wounds to the Berserker Brock Lord. His great weapons are there. He goes into the Iron Guard as well, and they take a few wounds. They're pretty tough. 6 up on their defense makes them pretty rugged, especially if somebody charges through the forest and has a -1 to hit. So my Berserker Brock Lord holds because he also gives no fucks. And in counter, I go back into the ogres myself, and then my king cuts off that lord's flank because ogre heroes in the flank suck. You'll see I'm moving up on the right-hand side. One of the things that drives me nuts about Kings of War is the static range for charges and the way that you measure it. So that horde of great weapons in Warhammer would have been like just begging to flank those ogres in the following turn. But because you measure from the center to the closest point on the base, I wasn't within 8 inches. I can't get in. Kind of sucks, but that's the game. It's okay. My guys with the +1 speed, however, on the right hand, to the right of them, those guys have range to the flank, so they are a threat to his flank. My Berserker Brock Lord does what individuals do, which is to give the thing that wants to fight them with the big middle finger, turns around and then just charges his hero who had sneaked out of the area and was threatening my rangers and the objective on the left. So I charged him. He already had 5 wounds on him, so you can imagine how that went. That guy popped. Individuals are pretty awesome, especially that individual. My shield guys move up and get on this objective. And I move up here, trying to get ready for a flank charge. And I don't need to. I wind up breaking them in that turn of combat. I wound up putting a bunch of wounds on that giant, but man, I could not hit him. I think I rolled like a 2 or a 3. Anyway, he stands his ground. And he goes into my king, does some wounds. He goes into my shield guys. This must be a little bit later. I think I moved up a little bit, and then he attacked me, and then I countercharged. I don't know. Anyway, they got into a fight by that objective. Boxcars, what is that? That must be how I broke them. I think I did enough wounds to do that, and then I rolled boxcars, and they ran off the board. I think that's what happened. All right. And over there, now I'm fighting his great weapon guys. I go back over to try to mess with the mammoth, because why not? At this point, we're cleaning up. I've got the objectives I need to win, so I'm trying to score as many points as I can. It's important for the tournament, for battle points, to maximize your points at the end of a game. So he is over there. I charge his mammoth, and we pound on each other for a couple of turns. The king and his captain pound on each other for a couple of turns. He goes into those Iron Guard, and again, only puts a wound on them or so. Doesn't do much to them. They hold their ground. And that's what happens to the Berserker Brock Lord and the mammoth, just kind of pounding the crap out of each other. And they take a decent amount of wounds, 5 wounds, so there's 8 there, and then 6 on the king. Everybody kind of holds their ground, though. And that's the last picture I took of the game, unfortunately. So this is right around turn 6. We did roll to see if there was a turn 7, although the game had been pretty much won by me at that point. We had to maximize victory points as well to maximize your tournament score. So we rolled the dice to see if we went on to an additional turn, and we did. In the additional turn, I killed those great weapon guys. He killed my Berserker Brock Lord, I think, and he might have killed my king. I don't remember. But we exchanged points a little bit, but at the end of the day, I pretty much cleared off all of his units and had grabbed the objectives, and it was a victory for the dwarves. It was a fun game. Again, it was kind of a bummer to pull the same opponent that I played last time. Not that it's not fun to play him, he's fantastic to play. But we'd already played each other with these lists, and we wanted to play other people. Not that that's a problem. We had a good time. We're both still learning how to really make this game work for us. He's used to powerful charges and some other things, and we're learning how to countercharge and set up counter. So it's still a learning process for us both in terms of that. Definitely one of the things that we both have to get used to is using and then dealing with individuals with a lot of mobility and that hit hard. My flying king is really nice, and my Berserker Brock Lord is just murder on anybody who's got a lot of these monstrous or large units, large infantry, large cavalry, and monsters. I mean, he's just tailor built to murder those things. So, but we both played pretty well, and I think that both of us made a couple of mistakes in deployment. I think he probably was kicking himself with how he used his chariots. He should have gotten those involved a little bit earlier on. I was kind of kicking myself once again with how I sort of misused my rangers. I got to get much better about that. I have Vanguard, so I use it, and that's silly. Anyway, a good time, and with one victory, I went into my round 2.